Hi, most quilters have heard of half square triangles, but have you heard of a half rectangle? We're going to review those today and how to make them. Just stay tuned. Hi, Fran Morgan with Fabric Cafe, and today we're going to review my book, Fat Quarter Quilting Fun, and the half rectangle block. I have a couple of quilts in this pattern book that uses half rectangles, and we're going to review a couple of them today. Now, the great thing about the Fat Quarter Quilting Fun book is all of the patterns use 12 fat quarters for a lap size quilt. They're all here on the back. Great for busting that stash and using up those fat quarters that you've been collecting. So let's start talking about the half rectangle and how we go about it. We'll start by looking at our trees quilts. So this one is such a fun quilt. Now, I think this would be darling in Christmas colors, similar to what we've done here, but I also think it would be fantastic in like browns and blues, like for a mountain lodge look. It would be a lot of fun. Now, our half rectangle is actually the block that we have used to make our trees. So we have one going each direction. Fun block to make, maybe a little bit different than what we've done before with the half square triangle, but very similar and just as easy and fun to do. So let's start stepping through how to do that. So the first step that I have done here, and I'm going to open up this pattern because our patterns very simply step through how to do the half rectangles. And we start with a light and a medium fat quarter fabric here. I've cut them according to the directions to the size needed. And I have taken a water-soluble marker and drawn a line, in this case, from the bottom right to the upper left. Now, whenever I say that, the line is drawn from the bottom right to the upper left. Now, we're also going to do a reverse block, a reverse half rectangle, and we're going to draw the line from the bottom left to the upper right. You can see how those are different there. So what this does is it makes each half of the tree. They're going to be mirror image. After we do that, we are going to take them. Let me just put this right up next to here. Here's our diagrams where you can see. We're going to tilt our blocks, take the lines, and match the corners to the block. So this one goes that way. And then I'm going to scooch this over so that you can see. And this one goes the opposite direction. You see how those are turned differently? And then once we've done the marking and the stacking and lining them up, I'm going to just scoot this out here. We are going to stitch a scant 1/4 inch on each side of our marked line. And you can see here that here are my opposites. And just for your information, I have used a black thread on these samples so that you can really see how that I've stitched on each side of that line. Now, we're going to cut these next. And once we cut them and open them up, let me just get my ruler. You're going to see how it begins to take shape for our half rectangle tree. So we've got that one. I'm just going to finger press this open so that you can see how that is, and then how this one is. Now, if you'll notice, you couldn't really put these together because they're going the same direction. So this only makes half the tree. That's the reason why we stacked them 2 different directions so that you have the mirror image. Now I'm going to cut the next one. I'm going to just line my ruler up there. Right on that line is where I'm cutting. And then I'm going to cut through there. And now let's just open these up and finger press. And now you can see how our tree shape is beginning to form. So this is looking really great. Now what we want to do is we want to trim these rectangles down to our size so they're nice and clean. I would say square them up, which is our typical term, but do you square a rectangle, or let's rectangle them up? All right, and I have a couple here that are already pressed, so let's get those trimmed up. I'm going to just walk around to the end of the table so that we can get a closer view and John can get a real nice close-up picture. Now, as an aid for myself, I have actually put some masking tape on the back of my ruler. And I'll just flip this over and you can see I just taped it on there, trimmed the tails from the masking tape. And what this does is it gives me a great guide so that I don't accidentally trim on the wrong measurement. So I'm going to put my square right up here. Now in this case, I am lining up so that this seam line goes right through this corner where the masking tape is. And that masking tape is a great aid for me so I can line that up perfectly. And then I'm just going to bump my ruler over so that the top also goes through, the seam goes through that corner there. And then I'm just going to double check and make sure that I'm all good to go for trimming. And then we're going to trim the edges. Sometimes when we do videos and we trim like this, I feel like I need to be an octopus or something with 8 arms. All right, now I've turned that block, and once again, I am going to line it up. And you can see I have my tape on the bottom, so I know exactly where it needs to go. And then line that up at top. My seam is going through the point of the ruler here. That is perfect. And I am going to trim again. And now we have that nice trimmed block ready to make into a tree. So let's get the quilt back up here and look. I have a couple of blocks that I trimmed earlier, so I'm going to show those. So we have here, so here you can see that this is this block. Now, of course, there's seam allowances is still on there. And these go just like this and just like this. And you can see how that's going to go together as the tree. So super simple, such a fun project. If you haven't done this, it's really a neat, different type of block to make. Now, I'm going to pull these off to the side here, and we're going to look at this block, and I'm just going to tell you a few unique characteristics of half rectangles. As you can see here, because they're not square, there's some unique things. One is you can see that this top point does not totally match this upper seam. That's okay. Also, these corners are trimmed off just a little bit. Because these are mirror image the way they are, that's just going to happen. And you know what? It's okay. It is. I give you total permission to not have perfect points on your trees. Just pretend like the tree trimmers came. But it makes a darling, darling tree, a great way to use up your scrappy fat quarters. But what's really great, because this quilt is so adorable, we have put together a fat quarter bundle for you. Let me show that to you now. So here are the fabrics that we have pulled together for our trees quilt. All of our fat quarter bundles and the patterns are marked this way, are put into categories of light, mediums, and darks. We have them listed here. It does take 12 fat quarters to make the lap size quilt. And if you're interested in this fat quarter bundle, the number is 8021085, and it's called a rustic woodland. And it's for the tree pattern in the Fat Quarter Quilting book. Now, something else I would like to show you in the book is there's another quilt that we are using half rectangle blocks. Let me not say square. And it is boho. I love this quilt. Now, if you haven't done half rectangles, this may be a great one to start with. Instead of having a mirror image like we did with the trees so that you have two different blocks, these half rectangles all go the same direction. So whenever you mark them, every block is cut and made the exact same way so that there's not that mirror image. What a fabulous way to use up some scraps and to really highlight those beautiful fat quarters that you have. Now, I love this quilt, and we've put together a bundle for you just to make it just like this. So let's look at that. Thank you, Hannah. Now here is our Boho Blues bundle. And once again, as I mentioned, we have already selected your light, your medium, and your dark fabrics, just like what is shown in the quilt. And also want to mention that all of our fat quarter bundles include enough fabric for the binding. So even if you are pulling fat quarters from your stash, it just takes 12 fat quarters, and you can also make our economy binding. So that is really fabulous. So let's look at this again so I can get you the number so you can get online and order. The number is 8021091, and it's called Boho Blues. Now, something that's also great about our books, if you would like to order 3 fat quarter bundles, either for your stash or for one of the great quilts, you can get the Fat Quarter Quilting Fun book free with those 3 bundles. Lots of fun information, lots of extra tips in the book. Also, the book gives enlargements for the twin and the king queen, and of course the base pattern is for your lap size, which is about 45 by 60, give or take an inch. Thank you so much for joining. Please do not forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell next to it. The bell will notify you when we have a new video coming out, and we really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for joining us.